Did you know you don't have to cut out carbs to fix your blood sugar? Honestly, the fastest way to fix your numbers has a lot more to do with adding certain foods than eliminating an entire food group like carbohydrates. I've seen it play out over and over, hundreds of patients who turned their numbers around in just days simply by adding these foods to what they already eat. And this isn't a short-term fix either. They're still keeping their sugars low without medication, months and even years later. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use 10 specific foods to fully optimize your biochemistry and reverse insulin resistance at the cellular level so you can bring your sugars down quickly, naturally, and most importantly, in a way that lasts. Before we get into the first one, quick favor. If you want more videos that explain the why behind what's happening in your body, instead of just handing you a prescription, hit subscribe, drop a like, and leave a comment with your fasting number from this morning. I actually read these, and the ages and numbers I see genuinely shape what I cover next. All right, let's get into it. Here's something almost nobody explains in a 12-minute office visit. High blood sugar almost always starts upstream with a hormone called insulin. Insulin is what unlocks your cells, so glucose, the sugar in your blood, can leave your bloodstream and get into the cell where it's actually needed. After years of riding the blood sugar roller coaster, your cells basically stop answering the door. Insulin knocks and knocks, and the cell stays shut. That's insulin resistance. Your pancreas responds by pumping out more and more insulin. Your blood sugar climbs anyway, and the standard fix is a prescription that pushes even more insulin into a system already drowning in it. The system profits when you stay sick, not when you get better. That's just how the economics work, not some grand conspiracy. There's no time and no revenue in a rushed office visit to teach you how food actually talks to your insulin receptors, so I'm going to do it here. My name is Dr. Aqib Arthur, and each of these 10 foods does one of three things. It slows down incoming sugar, it cools the inflammation keeping your cells deaf to insulin, or it wakes the insulin receptor back up so your body can do what it was built to do. You don't need to start all 10 tomorrow. Add them gradually over the next couple of weeks and stack them together. Let's start with the first one, fenugreek seeds. These are small, hard, amber-colored seeds you can grab from the spice aisle of pretty much any grocery store for a couple of dollars. If you skip this one because it sounds unfamiliar, you're walking right past one of the most powerful blood sugar tools on the shelf, and it costs less than your morning coffee. Here's what it does inside you. The seed is loaded with a soluble fiber called galactomannan. Once it hits water in your stomach, it swells into a thick gel, and that gel physically slows how fast your stomach empties carbs into your small intestine. Slower emptying means sugar trickles into your blood instead of flooding it. No flood means no giant spike, no panicked dump of insulin. On top of that, fenugreek contains an amino acid that nudges your pancreas to release insulin more efficiently and helps muscle cells absorb glucose. In my own practice, I've watched fasting numbers drop within a week or two from this alone. To use it, soak a teaspoon of whole seeds in a glass of water overnight, then in the morning, drink the water and eat the softened seeds before breakfast. If the slightly bitter taste bothers you, grind them and mix half a teaspoon into yogurt or sprinkle over eggs. Start small, this fiber is strong, and your gut needs a few days to adjust. Number 2 is cinnamon, and you almost certainly already have some at home, but the type matters, and most people grab the wrong one. Regular grocery store cinnamon is cassia, which contains a compound called coumarin that's hard on the liver in large daily doses. What you actually want is Ceylon cinnamon, sometimes labeled true cinnamon. It's milder, safer for daily use, and the one I recommend to my own patients. What makes cinnamon effective is a group of polyphenols, natural plant compounds that behave almost like insulin themselves. They help insulin receptors grip glucose more tightly and slow your stomach from emptying too quickly after a meal. This effect is real and measurable. Research from the Human Nutrition Program at the USDA found that under half a teaspoon a day meaningfully lowered fasting glucose in adults with type 2 diabetes. Skip this one and you're leaving an easy win sitting in your spice rack. Use about a quarter to half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon daily, stirred into oatmeal, coffee, or a smoothie. Pair it with a carbohydrate meal. That's exactly when you want your receptors gripping harder and your stomach slowing down. Third on the list is broccoli sprouts, and I want you to really pay attention here because this is the most underused food in this whole video. Not full-grown broccoli, the tiny 3-day-old sprouts. Miss that distinction, and you miss almost all the benefit. Broccoli sprouts are loaded with a compound called sulforaphane, and the sprouts contain somewhere between 50 and 100 times more of it than a mature head of broccoli. Sulforaphane does something none of the other foods on this list do quite as directly. It travels to your liver and quiets the overnight glucose factory. Your liver produces sugar while you sleep, and with insulin resistance it produces far too much, which is exactly why so many people wake up to a high fasting number they can't explain. A 2017 study out of Lund University in Sweden gave concentrated sulforaphane to people with type 2 diabetes and measurably lowered their fasting blood sugar, with the strongest effect showing up in the people whose sugar was hardest to control. You can grow broccoli sprouts yourself in a jar on the counter for pennies, or just buy them in the produce section. A small handful, about a quarter cup, on a salad or sandwich most days is plenty. Don't cook them hard. High heat destroys the active compound. Eat them raw or barely wilted. So far, every food has done similar quiet work, slowing sugar down or waking the receptor up, and we're only 3 in. The next 4 change the actual meals you're already eating. If someone in your life is fighting their numbers too, send them this video, because this is the stuff nobody ever sits people down and explains. Number 4 is avocado. Most people treat it as a fat to avoid because of the calories, and that fear is costing them. The fat in avocado is monounsaturated, the same family as olive oil, and it's one of the most blood sugar-friendly things you can put on a plate. The reason is simple. The healthy fat and fiber in avocado slow down your entire meal. Add half an avocado to a plate of rice or toast, and you're not removing the carbohydrate, you're putting a brake on how fast it turns into blood sugar. Glucose rises gently instead of spiking. Over time, monounsaturated fat has also been shown to improve insulin sensitivity, meaning your cells answer that insulin knock a little faster. In my experience, this is the easiest food on the list to turn into a habit, because it makes meals more filling and you stop reaching for a snack an hour later. Half an avocado a day is a reasonable amount. Put it on eggs in the morning, mash it onto whole grain toast, or add it to a salad that already has a starch in it. Anywhere there's a carb on your plate, avocado softens the impact. Fifth is chia seeds, tiny gray and black seeds that punch way above their size. If you've ever watched chia sit in liquid and turn into pudding, you've already seen exactly how it behaves in your gut. Chia is one of the richest sources of soluble fiber around, and once it meets water in your stomach, it forms that same thick gel we talked about with fenugreek. That gel wraps around the carbohydrates in your meal and slows their absorption way down, so sugar releases slowly and steadily instead of spiking and crashing an hour later, leaving you shaky and hungry. Chia also contains a plant-based omega-3 fat that helps calm the low-grade inflammation sitting underneath insulin resistance. Cool that inflammation, and cells start listening to insulin again. 1 to 2 tablespoons a day gets the job done, stirred into yogurt, dropped into a glass of water with a squeeze of lemon, or blended into a smoothie. Give it about 10 minutes to gel before drinking, and pair it with plenty of water since all that fiber needs liquid to move through you. Number 6 is fatty fish, specifically salmon and mackerel. This one doesn't work by slowing your meal down. It works on the deeper issue, the reason your cells stopped listening to insulin in the first place. Insulin resistance is largely driven by chronic inflammation, and when your body stays quietly inflamed year after year, that inflammation physically interferes with the insulin signal at the surface of the cell. Salmon and mackerel are loaded with two omega-3 fats, EPA and DHA, among the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory compounds we know of. They lower inflammatory signals. The cell membrane gets healthier, and the insulin receptor starts functioning the way it's supposed to. In 15 years of practice, patients who eat fatty fish twice a week consistently show calmer, more stable numbers along with better blood pressure. Aim for 2 servings a week, roughly the size of your palm each. Wild salmon, mackerel, sardines, and herring all work well. Bake it, grill it, or buy it canned if that's easier on your budget. Canned mackerel and sardines are some of the cheapest, most powerful foods in this entire list. 7th is walnuts. Of all the nuts, this is the one I point patients toward first because of what it does for the lining of your blood vessels and your insulin at the same time. Walnuts are rich in polyunsaturated fat, along with the same plant omega-3 found in chia. That fat improves the function of your endothelium, the thin lining inside blood vessels, which is one of the first things high blood sugar damages. At the same time, the fat, fiber, and protein in walnuts blunt the rise in blood sugar after meals and have been shown to lower fasting insulin, the number underneath your blood sugar that reflects how hard your pancreas is straining. Eat a small handful as a snack instead of crackers or a cookie, and you've turned a sugar spike into a flat line. A small handful is about a quarter cup or 7 to 10 whole walnuts. Keep them raw or dry roasted, not the candied or honey-coated kind, and use them to replace a processed snack rather than adding on top of one. Number 8 is eggs, whole eggs, yolk included. For years, people were told the yolk was the enemy, and that bad advice pushed folks toward sugary breakfast cereals that were far worse for their blood sugar. Let me correct that. A whole egg is almost pure protein and fat with essentially no carbohydrate. So on its own, it barely moves your blood sugar at all. The real magic, though, is what doctors call the second meal effect. Start your day with eggs instead of toast or cereal, and you steady your blood sugar not just at breakfast, but all the way through to lunch, walking into your next meal with calmer numbers and a smaller spike. The protein and fat also keep you full, so the mid-morning cravings pulling you toward the cookie jar quietly fade away. In my practice, swapping a cereal breakfast for 2 or 3 eggs is one of the fastest changes I see show up on a morning glucose reading. 2 or 3 whole eggs in the morning is a solid target for most people. Scramble them, boil a batch ahead for the week, fold in some spinach, top it with that avocado from earlier, and you've built a nearly perfect blood sugar breakfast. Number 9 is apple cider vinegar, and this has the fastest visible effect on a glucose meter of anything on this list. If you have a meter at home, you can literally watch this one work tonight. The active ingredient is acetic acid, and it does 2 things at once. It slows your stomach from emptying, so carbs from your meal enter your bloodstream gradually, and it helps your muscles pull glucose out of the blood to use as fuel. The research here is solid. Work led by Dr. Carol Johnston at Arizona State University found that a tablespoon of vinegar before a carbohydrate meal lowered the after-meal blood sugar spike by roughly 20% in people with insulin resistance, a drug-sized effect from something that costs a few dollars a bottle. Take 1 tablespoon, diluted in a full glass of water, 10 to 15 minutes before a meal containing carbs, and this part matters. Always dilute it, never drink it straight, since the acid is hard on tooth enamel and the throat. If you're already on any blood sugar medication, talk to your doctor first, since vinegar combined with that medication can push your sugar down faster than expected. The 10th food is lentils, and this one proves the entire point of this video. Lentils are a carbohydrate, and they will still lower your blood sugar. Here's how. Lentils are built from a slow-digesting resistant starch wrapped in soluble fiber, along with a healthy dose of plant protein, and that combination releases glucose into your blood slowly and steadily over hours, instead of all at once. They also carry the second meal effect, so a bowl of lentil soup at lunch keeps your sugar steadier into the evening. Clinically, Swapping white rice or white potato for lentils a few times a week is one of the most reliable ways I know to bring down an A1C, your 3-month average blood sugar. Aim for half a cup to a cup of cooked lentils a few times a week in a soup, a stew, or a cold salad with olive oil and a splash of that vinegar we just covered. They're filling, cheap, and stretch a meal further than almost anything else on this list. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Donna, 63 years old, recently retired, who came to me frightened because her fasting sugar was sitting around 180, and her doctor had just told her it was time to add a second medication. She didn't want to spend the rest of her life climbing the medication ladder, and she was scared because she'd watched her own mother lose toes and then her eyesight to this same disease. We didn't cut her carbs to nothing. We added eggs and avocado in the morning instead of cereal, a tablespoon of vinegar before her bigger meals, lentils swapped in for white rice, walnuts instead of the afternoon cookie, fatty fish twice a week, cinnamon in her coffee, and broccoli sprouts on her lunchtime sandwich. Within the first week, her fasting numbers started dropping. Within 3 months, working alongside her own doctor, she'd come off that second medication entirely, and her A1C had moved from the diabetic range back toward normal. 2 years later, it's held. She didn't starve herself. She ate more food, just the right food, and her body did the rest. So let me tie all 10 of these together, because this is why they work when cutting carbs alone fails. Every one of these foods hands your insulin its job back without starving you. The fiber-rich foods slow glucose down, so your pancreas never has to panic. The fish, walnuts, and chia cool the inflammation that was jamming the signal. The cinnamon and vinegar walk right up to the insulin receptor and help it grip again. Do that meal after meal, day after day, and the cell that stopped answering the door slowly starts opening it again on the first knock. That's what reversing insulin resistance at the cellular level actually means, and once it happens, your body holds your sugar down on its own, which is exactly why Donna's numbers stayed low for 2 full years. Before I give you tonight's plan, I need to draw one clear line. If you're on insulin or a sulfonylurea, one of the older blood sugar medications, these foods can lower your sugar fast enough that your current dose becomes too strong, which can drop you into a low. So add these foods with your doctor tracking your numbers and let them walk your medication dose down as your body improves. Don't stop any prescription on your own. Bring this list to your next appointment instead. Here's what to do tonight. 5 simple steps. 1. Tomorrow morning, swap your cereal or toast for 2 or 3 whole eggs and half an avocado. That single change shifts your blood sugar for the entire day. 2. Tonight, soak a teaspoon of fenugreek seeds in a glass of water and drink it first thing in the morning. 3. Buy Ceylon cinnamon, not cassia, and start with a 1/4 teaspoon a day in your coffee or oatmeal. 4. Before your biggest carbohydrate meal tomorrow, take a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in a full glass of water 15 minutes ahead of time. 5. This week, swap white rice or white potato for lentils at least twice, and put fatty fish on the menu 2 nights. Stack these in gradually over the next 2 weeks. You're not taking away the foods you love. You're adding the foods that protect you. Now, everything we covered today brings your sugar down during the day and after meals, but a huge number of you have told me the same strange thing, that your highest reading of the entire day shows up first thing in the morning before you've eaten a single bite. You fasted all night and your sugar went up anyway. There's a specific reason your liver does that while you sleep, and there's a way to shut it down. I made a video that explains exactly what's happening overnight and how to wake up to a lower number. I'll put it right here on screen. Go watch that one next, and I'll see you there. Dr. Aqib Arthur.